All hail the power of Jesus' name, let angels prostrate fall. Bring forth the royal diadem and crown him Lord of all. Bring forth the royal diadem and crown him Lord of all. Let every tongue...
Welcome everybody to the Tag Your It podcast. I'm Ray.
And I am David Van Peppy.
And we have our special guest with us already on the in our meeting anyway. Wil Hoffmann is with us today. How are you doing? How is it up there? I guess actually it's down there in Missouri. I found out that whenever we say in Missouri down there, and say I came from Springfield and I said I went down to St. Louis. You're thinking, no, you went up to St. Louis. Actually, you're going downhill because you're going toward a river. Interesting.
Well, and that helps me out a lot because I say that, I'm going to go down over there. But I guess if I'm going to Springfield, I guess I got to go up.
Yeah, you're going to go up to Springfield, So
yeah,
it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Actually, my wife gave me a really hard time about saying that when we moved out to Utah, because I'd always say, well, hey, I'm going to, we're going to go out to Utah or go down to Utah or something like that. And she's like, it's actually kind of over.
Yeah.
Just kind of going over.
Yeah. So yeah, whatever it is, how's everything going where you're at?
It is good. It's been a bit windy today, but the weather's been beautiful, and we're at that time where you can open up the windows and just have a nice day of relaxing. I wore a flannel to church yesterday, so we were ready for that season. And I'm all for that season.
Already. Well, that's awesome to hear, man. So yes, for everybody that isn't in the know, Wil is our Missouri Baptist Apologetics Network president. So we've got Missouri Baptist Apologetics Network royalty with us on the show right now. He is the Mr. President, and he does a lot of work behind the scenes that nobody sees. But Wil, also, you've seen him on our show before. We consider him one of our Tag Your It fellows, so he's back. So really today is kind of like a Tag Your It, but it's mostly to talk about Missouri Baptist Apologetics Network things.
And you certainly keep on your resume that you're a Tag fellow, right? I mean, that's a high piece on there, right?
Yeah. I have to be honest, I haven't really updated my resume in quite a while. So there's still a picture of my kids as I think 2 and 18 months or something. And no beard. I had no beard in it. But yeah.
So young. You're so young.
Yeah, I do have under the special interest, the Tag Your It fellow, and then El Presidente. As well. So I try to represent everything that I do, and I always saw there was a Japanese businessman that had so many titles that it took up his entire business card. So I hope to one day have that. It's a bunch of stuff going in. So
give us a little update on what you're currently working on, some projects that you've been involved in since we've last talked. It was about a year ago, actually, a little over a year ago, that we actually had you on the program, if I remember correctly. So just give us an update on what's been going on in your life and in your ministry, and we'd love to hear about those things.
Well, I mean, this year, as the same as last year, I think really starting at the Missouri Baptist meeting last year, I've just been in an overdrive, really, with my ministry here in mid-Missouri, the church I pastor. We got a lot of things. We got a building project getting ready to take off the ground. So that's always a really time-consuming operation, trying to build a gym onto our existing church. And got that going on. I got being part of the Missouri Baptist, the president of the Apologetics Network, trying to get new projects going on, trying to get new people involved with it, trying to get our people into churches, and also being able to represent that on the Missouri Baptist Convention Executive Board as well. So, with all of that stuff, there's a lot of things going on, and it just makes, and I'm teaching my 15-year-old how to drive. So
The
I
most
got all of
difficult
that
of
going
all
on.
those things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a little
Yeah.
bit of everything where you sit there and you go, okay, I'm going to wait for this month to take a break. And that was starting in, September for me, where I was like, okay, I'm going to be able to breathe a little bit easier in September. And then I got COVID. So it was like, all right, I have to take about 4 days and just do nothing. But now I'm playing catch up, getting back onto everything. And we got the NBC annual meeting coming up just in a few weeks. I think we're like, 6 weeks or something like that. And that is a more than busy time for me. Again, being on the executive board, being on all the committees that I'm a part of, and then having our meeting and our debate taking place on Sunday night.
Yep.
Which is very exciting because everyone that I've talked to about it, first they'll say, wait, there's 4 views. And then usually I'll hear the one person in the church going, well, which one's going to take the biblical view?
There's the resolve, right?
Yeah, and I'm going, well, I'm pretty sure they're all taking the biblical view, just how it happens, we're going there. And I think that is such a great debate because we have people who have different points of view that can explain it, that at the end of the day, we're all going to have the finger foods and the drinks, and we're going to laugh, we're going to shake hands, and no one is going to feel like, well, I got to stone that guy to death because he's a heretic. And it's a great in-house debate. It is a great way to say, hey, come see what we're doing. Everybody likes to debate this topic or listen to it, or even to the point of saying, well, you know what? I don't understand Adam's view all that well. So I'm hoping to learn about it. Well, and for me personally, that's where I'm at, is like with all the studying that I've done on it and personal things I've had issues with in my ministry, dealing with people telling me what I needed to believe and how, things were going to happen. I kind of check myself out of, arguing the end times, how's it going to happen? Am I on millennial? Am I a historical? Am I post? Am I, I'll just let you all know now, I'm not a pre-trib rapture guy.
Okay.
So you have that, but it gives us a time where we can come and even learn, hey, what is the post view? Don't only Presbyterians believe that.
One of the things that I think is a major advantage in this is that many pastors, and God bless them, will have adopted a view early on in their ministry, and they will have kind of hammered down on that. And when they do deal with text, they're only viewing that text through their eschatological lens. And so a lot of times in a church, you won't get multiple views because you will be maybe concerned about stepping on someone's toes or offending someone because they have a deeply entrenched view. This is the only way it is. And this sets up a really great opportunity to have that type of dialogue. Which then kind of leads us into this other component. Obviously, we're doing the debate. That's a big deal. The meeting is a big deal. I mean, we had like 100 people at the debate last year, so a pretty full room. Hopefully, we'll have a fuller room this year. That'll be really exciting. I'll get to co-moderate that with you. I'm looking forward to that quite a bit. Never co-moderated a debate with you, Will. So that'll be fun.
And I'll be debating without Dave because of that. Usually you get the whole package of the tag you're it thing going on, but only half of it, man.
They'll miss out on it this year. Hopefully no one will accuse me of like favoring Adam because of this. But I mean, for real, Gabe was one of my students, so you know, and I've known Dennis longer than I've known Adam, so there's also that component. Colton, I guess I've talked to him on the phone a few times, but I've never had him as a student.
Well, and these are all guys who can present a topic that, maybe they don't even hold to, but they've studied it enough where they can present it from that side. And I think that's a big bonus when you're doing apologetic work is actually being able to argue the side you don't necessarily agree with. And I think that's just a good debate thing, or even just, if you're wanting to know anything, whatever topic it is, even if it's you want to jump into the political spectrum, be able to argue the other side and take their position and say, hey, I'm going to present this as if I'm for it, because you know what? When you do that, then you can say, I know how to actually argue against it. And I think that's a huge bonus whenever you do apologetic work. If you want to go out and learn about Mormonism, you probably shouldn't just read what, some of the key authors, Christian authors wrote about it. But what you should do is you should read the Mormon teachings. You should read, books by Mormon authors, and even arguments on, their apologists, and think, and get that concept in your head and say, okay, let's say I'm going to be a Mormon today. I have to be able to argue this point. Why was Joseph Smith correct? And be able to even, and I think that's why the network is good, because I know that I can call one of you all and say, I'm gonna throw some arguments at you. Come back at me. Because first we're going to strengthen each other. It's the whole iron sharpens iron. I could sit there and easily say, well, hey, you know why Joseph Smith was right on all of this? Well, hey, you got to go by faith, right? I mean, how many times do we say that in our church?
Yeah.
We are going on faith. We are walking by faith. Well, hey, I mean, you got a ton of Mormons who are walking by faith.
Yeah.
Aren't they right?
The difference. Yeah.
So then you got to dig in deeper and understand all the nooks and crannies of these religions and things. And, and that's why when you have a group of guys going, hey, we're going to discuss, end times theology. I may not necessarily agree with this one, but I know I can argue it, and I'll take that position. So you sit there and you lay it out, and somebody's going to go, man, I didn't know that you were a pre-trib rapture guy. Well, I'm not. I've just been taught it. I watched Left Behind, so I know what it is. Kirk Cameron taught it to me in the movie. Not the Nicolas Cage. That was an
and Kirk Cameron's now on my side, which is awesome.
We got to go with the classic, right? But when you're able to do that, it makes you a stronger apologist. It makes you a stronger debater.
It just goes into the same idea in the answer don't answer approach in presuppositional or covenantal apologetics, where you have to drive their car. Take them where that leads. You keep them consistent with what they believe, and you show them where they go. Then you bring them into your car, and then go that direction. So whenever we're in this more like we're in-house here, we probably have the same presuppositions, and we have to expose where we don't have the same presuppositions and they're contrary to scripture. But that's the same methodology. Drive their car, go to their conclusions, have them come in your car, go to your conclusions. So I mean, we're just doing the same thing, just a little closer, because the presuppositions and the validation for those are coming from the same place.
So, Wil, the debate is great. The neat thing has been the Missouri Baptist Apologetics Network has had a booth at the Missouri Baptist Annual Meeting now since 2018. That's when they started doing a booth. They produced at that time in 2018 that great book, Show Me Why. Adam had an article in that. You had an article in that. I had an article in that. Now again, here in 2022, a new piece is being published by the Missouri Baptist Apologetics Network. What's the name of that piece? And tell us just a little bit about that.
Oh, man, I got it right here.
The MBAN Journal and Directory.
Yes. So what happened was when we actually I was in New Orleans, getting ready to get on a cruise ship, gonna sail down the Mississippi, and I thought to myself, and we've had these conversations before. What can we put out? After the third year of handing out the same book, pretty much everybody goes, okay, I have this book.
4 years. 4 years.
4 years.
Mhm.
And I understand making it as an author when you go into a used Christian bookstore and you find that book. And you go, okay, we need something new. We need something to produce, something to get in hands, and not just, here's a sheet of paper, here's, a trinket you're going to take, here's some mints, that stuff. And what we started doing last year too was allowing our network members to, and we've always kind of done this, but we really ramped it up last year, was to allow our network members to actually bring in their published material and hand it out. So you had stands of little flyers and things that they could, hand out, give to people, talk to people. It gave it something better to just say, well, hey, here's a book that you've probably gotten 3 copies of already. So I got with Rob and I said, hey, let's produce something. First, doing another book was out of the question. Not that we don't have the opportunity to do it, but trying to get so many authors involved again was a hard task to do.
Yeah.
A lot of back and forth with our editor and a lot of pastors and theologians like us. We don't like to change things, and we think all of our stuff has to be exactly the way it says it. And well, I mean, we're not editors. I'll put it like that and move on. But there was a lot of emails going back and forth of like, we need this to look good. And with so many authors, I forget how many we had in that. There
It was
like
like
12.
12 or 13.
Yeah, 12 or 13. It just got a little hectic. So talking to Rob and Rob Phillips and trying to find a way to get our articles into people's hands and looking good too. I said, what about doing like an academic type journal, where we can start out with like four or 5 contributors, and we will put an article and have a theme kind of set up, and we'll release this so that, when the pastors get it, it's not just, hey, here's the little flyer for all of our network members, but it's actually something that they're going to grab, they're going to read. We have 4 authors this time. And we got Jonathan Hayashi, we got Chris Bass, drawing blank here, and it's right in front of me. I could just look at it.
Open it up. Come on.
Open it
Come on,
up.
Uncle Will. Tell us a story.
Hannah Sims and Roger Shearer have all written things to say, why is apologetics needed in the church today? Because let's be honest, a lot of people kind of look at apologetics as, well, you're the guys that just like to argue. Well, and then one of the terms I hate hearing the most is apologetics has never saved anybody. Have you heard that?
I've heard people say,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. This is because that's exactly why I wrote what I wrote in the Show Me Why, and so this is why we continue to need to write sort of the same thing in different ways and get it to different people year to year at the convention. New pastors come in, whatever, they're going to still say the same thing. You can't argue anybody into heaven. It's like, I understand that, but if you have a false view of what apologetics is, so you need to be taught what is apologetics and what is our, why are we doing apologetics? Well, we're sanctifying Christ as Lord in our hearts, right? The same authoritative Lord over heaven and earth that told us to go and make disciples. So it's a part of evangelism. And unfortunately, we've had that dichotomy, but there is a famous apologist that has made that dichotomy and made that dichotomy clear. So, there is, there is a reason. But, here in Missouri, you're saying that here in Missouri, we are trying to make sure that dichotomy between the proclamation and the defense, that there is no dichotomy there, that you can put them together, keep them distinct, but we're supposed to be doing it.
Well, and the thing that I always try to tell people is that when when you sit there and you go up to somebody and you say, "Hey, can I talk to you?" and you get into a gospel conversation, pretty much I would say probably 9 times out of 10, that person is going to give you their either misguided or their wrong version of God, whatever it
Mhm.
is. If maybe they don't even believe in God. Well, you first have to break down and discuss those apologetic issues of, well, who God is, and you're explaining this stuff and you're correcting their wrong views of what they think God is. Maybe they are, again, Jehovah's Witness. Maybe they're Scientologists. Maybe they're, Mormon or something like that. They're coming to the table with this misguided view of God. You have to correct that. What is that? That's apologetics.
Mhm.
So even before you can get to evangelism, if you want to say, well, it's only evangelism that saves people, before you can even get to evangelism, you have to go through an apologetic method to get them onto the right track of who God is. So why is apologetics needed in our church today? Because there are a lot of misguided views about who God is.
So
Um,
you talked about Hannah Sims, Jonathan
mhm.
Hayashi, Roger Shearer, and Chris Bass.
Yep.
Why those authors? And without tipping your hand too much, what are their articles about? If you could give me a brief summary. I imagine you get to write like either an intro or an outro to this, right?
I did write a message. It's the message from the Missouri Baptist Apologetic Network president,
Mm.
Nice.
which I kind of threw together really last minute because I forgot that I was supposed to write it. So when I was getting all the articles together, uh, Rob goes, "Hey, we need your intro," and I'm like, "Oh, give me like 45 minutes," and I sit down and did it. But um, the articles and the people that we got, and I thought first of all, you know, kind of toot the horn a little bit. Kind of need a big name, Jonathan Hayashi. Let's go with Jonathan. And he talks about one of the things. I think that we might have all actually heard this article being preached really fastly at a workshop we did, but it's God's effectual call.
Mm.
So we all know where that one's going, and we're all
Yep.
going, "You go for it, John. You get it." But I also wanted to make sure that we got every spectrum of people that we know come by the booth. So who come
Yeah.
by the booth? We got pastors, we got laymen, we got pastors' wives. We have this whole dynamic of people that will come by the booth. So I wanted like subject matters that was going to grab their eyes. So for like Chris Bass, one of his key things that he does is like family worship. So
Mhm.
what is he going to talk about? What did he write about? It's apologetics and family worship.
Good.
Yep.
So you're gonna
That's
you're gonna
good.
have probably a dad trying to figure out how the best way to do family worship is. Maybe you'll have a new Christian, all excited about being a Missouri Baptist. So he goes to his first Missouri Baptist apologetic meeting, trying to figure out how he can sit down with his family and do worship. Well, here you go. And you can also hit the ladies with that one. The wives coming by and they're wanting to, help their children. That's one of the reasons I picked Hannah to write this, was because she works with apologetics for young kids in church.
Mhm.
So, hers is apologetics needed for the church. She took it and she ran with the title. She was like, I'm going
Awesome.
there.
Mhm.
But that her views are going to be coming more for not just teaching apologetics to teenagers and to the higher college age kids that might see it in the colleges and stuff like that, but how do you start young? How do you start, in children's church, this concept of teaching people what is right about God? And Hannah's perfect with that one. Roger I picked because his testimony was so interesting
Mhm.
that I said I need, and he was our newest network member at the time. Um, and I was like, I just need to have him write something. I need to have him, um, need to have something of what he does, because if you get a chance to talk to Roger, and you've had him on the show, right?
We have, yeah. We had him on early in the year, actually. He was one of our it's funny, we've had 3 of those 4 people on the podcast this year, Hannah, Roger, and Chris, talking about similar things. I mean, literally, we had Roger on talking about his testimony, which is really outstanding. Hannah came on and talked about children and apologetics. And of course, Dr. Bass came on and talked about family worship and apologetics. It was really,
and those were killer times with the MBAN. So it's wonderful though. Hopefully, through that talking anyway, we can expand the network, just because it's like, hey, you can see this in print. You can go out here. You can download a podcast of me expanding on some of these things that don't get in the article. So it does end up carrying the whole ministry of all the apologists and what they do. And then here's just a sampling of it in this journal. So I'm glad that you've done that. That sounds wonderfully amazing. You put a lot of thought into it, and intentional thought. And so again, just for you Missouri Baptists listening to this, the cool thing is we have intentionality. We have thought being put into this. So it's actually, hopefully MBAN becomes some sort of entity that is worth something to the Baptists, the Missouri Baptist, and to continue on into the future. As long as the Missouri Baptists live, then we'll have this entity that is intentionally thinking of you, to equip you for these things, pastors and people in the pews. Everybody needs the gospel. Everybody needs apologetics. So again, thank you. I just want to say thank you for all the intentionality in all of this.
Yeah, Will, I really appreciate your work on this. And I think it's very interesting, just as a whole, knowing that actually the 3 of us have been a part of the network for quite a few years in comparison to some of the other newer members. Over the last few years, one of the things that I've really seen is a greater hunger in Gen X through our Gen Z type of students and people in desiring a greater and robust defense of the Christian faith. And I think that it is something that the Missouri Baptists have been ahead of, but we've seen numerous institutions actually create apologetics degrees over the last few years since the network has begun. There is beginning to be a greater understanding of the need for that, which then kind of moves me, at least in my thought, into some of your goals. This is your second term as president of the MBAN. What are some of the long range plans? I mean, is this part of something that they're going to be doing regularly? What are some of the projects that we have kind of going forward in the network, the direction that you'd like to see it take as you meet with Gabe and meet with Rob about where the Missouri Baptist Apologetics Network might move forward to in the future?
Well, I'm glad you asked that, because this, in all reality, this is a test run. This journal that we put out, and has our directory in it, has these 4 articles by 4 great authors. It is a test run of saying, I would like to do this every year. And one of the things that we have been working with, me, Rob, Tony Bowes, at the NBC office, is actually taking our network website and making it more user friendly, actually for the members to actually produce their work on there. Not just their articles, but the podcasts they've been on, different videos and things like that. If you have that link or something like that, we can get that on the website. And we always tell the network members that the network page, that you can go to the NBC website and find it under apologetics. But in all reality, that is becoming our own separate, web page, so that we can produce more articles. I would love to have it in a way where you go on there and on the front page, you just have list of articles every year from our network members that are just able to submit them, put them up there. And then at the end of the year, or getting close to the time for, this is a process that we started. I think I reached out to Rob, I think it was about February or something like that, where we started this process of finding the people and saying, hey, we want you to write an article. This is how long it needs to be. This is the subject matter. Let's do that. And then we need it by this date so that we can get it to the publisher and then get it. And I think it came in just a couple weeks ago, because I actually got it at the executive board meeting, and it came in the Friday before that meeting. But the plan is to say, hey, all these articles that we have on our website from our network members that can get them on there, and eventually, hopefully, I would say probably by the end of the year, we'll actually have the access to put those on ourselves onto the website. Is at February next year, we have a handful of articles from, say, 10 of our authors. And then we're putting out a thicker academic journal. We always get these academic journals from the colleges, from seminaries, and, usually they come out annually or quarterly, things like that. And, as pastors, we like those. We like grabbing them. We like reading through them. We like taking notes. We like expanding our knowledge. And our network members have a ton of knowledge that is able to be put into a good looking handout that we can give.
Mm-hmm.
And what's to say that next year we don't have just 4 of the, say, 10 articles being debate recaps from, our debate coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Let's have articles on why should you pick this? Why should we go with this? What is the thought process of this standpoint? And doing that every year and having something new every year to get into the hands of Missouri Baptists as they walk by our booth. Because that's what we want to do, is we want to get this information in their hands. And I mean, if you're like me, like I'm always going around trying to, and Dave, I saw you with the coffee mug. I know where you got that coffee mug.
That's right.
Yeah.
Coffee mug.
Yeah, I had the exact same coffee mug. I'm wearing my Midwestern shirt that we all got at the annual meeting. We go around and we get our backpack.
Unless you're me, you don't get to get one.
Well, I'll say I get like 5 different emails at this point about jumping into the doctoral program at Midwestern because of the amount of shirts I get. And I got.
You should be a doctor by now, just because you got them.
I should, yeah. And and I joke with them all the time that I'm probably not going to actually start classes anytime soon, and well, that actually kind of changed too. So, but that's another story for another time. But as you know, we like to grab those things. We like to grab books. We like to grab everything that we can because we're pastors. And if you want to make the joke, we're cheap, or we just like freebies. Yes, we do. So we want to make sure that we have a good quality product in their hand that gives them great information, that gives them information about apologetics, that gives them information about the members, that when they take it home, it is sitting on their desk. They can flip through it. Maybe they're wanting to, they have an issue with trying to teach some kids about God. How do I do that? Well, wait, I have this article by this girl, and well, hey, here's her number in the back of it, and I can email her, or I can send that out, or hey, family worship, where do I go for that? Well, here we go, it's right here. And then again, you look and say, oh, hey, Jonathan Hayashi, I know that name. Let's read what he has to say, and then everybody becomes reformed, and we're all happy. I have no problem throwing that out there.
I love it. That's fine. We're the Tag Year podcast, so I mean, there's no way getting around it. So yeah, that's awesome. So I don't know if this would be an awesome long range. I mean, this would be the post mill side of goals for the Missouri Baptist Network anyway, or Apologetics Network. But what would it take for us to get to be an entity that would have to be discussed on the floor?
Oh,
yeah.
This has been a a goal of mine, and I don't know.
Okay.
I'll be honest. I don't know if I'll see it in my presidency, but it's been something I've been pushing towards. And the conversations have been real. The conversations have been long. Unfortunately, I'll say they have also been not, as light at the end of the tunnel, pleasing as I like, because we have to, unfortunately, again, apologetics has kind of had that mindset of, well, the reason we said, why is apologetics needed for the church? Unfortunately, a lot of people don't think it's needed anymore.
Mm.
Again, we're just the guys and gals that like to argue with people. So the battle is, again, we get it into their hands because they need to know it's needed. And when you sit there and you think about all the booths that you see, and the big booths, we know the big ones that are there, the church planning, the replanting, because the health of our churches and all of that. We see the collegiate ministry. They're always doing the fun stuff, and always got games out and things like that. We need to get it into people's everyday conversation. I mean, when you think of church planning, I mean, it's funny. I think last year was the best year for t-shirts, because and they're very comfortable. One of the things I talked with Dr. Matz about just the other week was, they can always count on me probably weekly to pray for Hannibal LaGrange, because they have some of the best t-shirts, the most comfortable ones. And I usually wear a Hannibal LaGrange t-shirt at least once a week. It is one of my most comfortable t-shirts, and I'm always wearing it. It will be that t-shirt that when it falls apart, I will be sad. So I'm always wearing it. It's always on my mind. The same thing with the network. We need to make the network and the members household names. We need to make sure that people understand that, when the Jehovah's Witness, Jehovah's Witnesses are not coming to the door yet, as far as I know, but they are starting to show up in town squares. For me,
I was up in Kansas City, in the Riverfront Market there. They had a little kiosk type thing set up, hanging out there on the corner. So that was the first time I'd seen anybody out wanting to talk. So they're out, and I think I've seen some other people posting. Sounds like you've ran into it yourself as well.
I have. So we have here in Fulton, we have a little brick district, and every Saturday they have a farmer's market, and I mean, just great food. And then every Thursday it's court day here in town. So everybody's at the courthouse, and you can always count on seeing the Jehovah's Witnesses out there at court day and at the farmer's market. And the first time I saw them, I was like, whoa, hey, let me go talk to them. Some very sweet ladies. We talked about everything from God to vacations to their grandkids, my kids, stuff like that. I spent quite a bit of time talking with them. But we also have a lot of church members who they see those people sitting there, and then as soon as they learn that they're Jehovah's Witnesses, they turn around and walk away because they don't want to have that conversation. They see the Mormons walking down the street. They're thinking, I got to run to the store real fast. Let's get out of here. We try to avoid those conversations, and as Christians, we're not supposed to. We're supposed to engage in those conversations. We want to get to the evangelism. We want to share the gospel, share the truth. What better way for evangelism than to have a guy come and say, hey, can I tell you about God? If they're going to tell you about God, they're going to listen to you about God. We need to make sure that our church members understand that they need to take those opportunities and not, shut the door.
Yeah.
That's apologetics. When they come to you, you talk to them instead of being scared about it. What do I say? No, just ask questions. Get to know them. If you get to know it's always a couple of ladies, the Jehovah's Witness ladies, and their husbands come out and do it too, but I've only seen the ladies. The sweetest ladies in the world. Talk to them about their grandkids. They'll want to talk about that,
Mhm.
but they're also going to want to bring up scripture, because
Mhm.
let's be honest, who's doing the better evangelism? It's the Mormons and the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah,
Now they're
and
not doing
whoever,
right
yeah.
evangelism.
And if we're not out there in the conversation, then the truth is not going to be out in the public square, and then we're going to sit in our churches and complain how bad everything is around us, and it's going to be directly tied to us not going out and doing what the Great Commission is. So,
You know, and it's funny because, or maybe it's sad. I'll be honest. I could probably reach out to probably 5 church members that I know, and not just my church, but every church. And I'm sure this goes for you all too. And I can get a detailed report on what happened on the Chiefs game last night or yesterday. But if I ask, hey, tell me how to become a Christian, may not get the same response.
Yeah,
At least
well
not in
said.
detail.
Well said.
They'll probably be like, hey, I'll send you the contact to my pastor. You know,
yeah.
well, pastors aren't always available. I had COVID a couple weeks ago, or about a week and a half ago. There was an entire day where I just slept. If anything happened at the church or a church member, I would not have known about it until I woke up. Well, I'm not always going to be available for people to say, hey, I'm talking to a guy about God. How do I tell him how to be saved?
And you're like, what have I been preaching on Sundays?
Yeah.
And this goes into
Yeah.
Ephesians 4. You're
Exactly.
equipping, but are they taking it as equipping, or are they just consuming and they're not sharing? So even we're supposed to teach people how to work so that they can share with the people around them. You're supposed to be teaching so that they can learn and then share with people around them. So it goes into our teaching too. And so, yeah, it's unfortunate that we've left everything to the expert, and now we got Fauci followers and people following our pastors like just Fauci, and we just, okay, we'll just do what he says, and we're not going to say anything until we get mad about somebody else not wearing a mask. But,
Yeah, we live in a Twitter-based society where everybody needs to debate within 160 characters.
yeah.
They can sit there and argue about everything. And here's another example. I think that, like, when I see the Mormon missionaries, the guys walking around in their nice slacks and ties, I go a little bit harder on them. Let's really get into it. When I see the little ladies, I'm like, oh, I don't want to. I always warn them, if you want to open that door, it's game time. Let me bring out my Greek New Testament and watch you fumble through the pages. But we, when we have those opportunities, when they're presented in front of us and we don't take them and we just squander that time, it sucks, man. And I hate seeing it. And I hate seeing, especially Missouri Baptist, because Missouri has got such a rich religious background of everything. And, when people want to sit there and argue on Twitter about politics or whatever the current social climate argument is, they can argue politics, and this is some pastors too. They can argue politics more than they can argue scripture. Now that's harsh. I'll be honest. I got blocked by a pretty prominent Southern Baptist pastor. After Roe v. Wade. Why? Because I asked him to justify, as a pastor, him saying that abortion was okay in certain situations. Because, well, I know where you all stand with abortion. I've heard what's coming forth at the NBC meeting.
I hope.
Still
haven't gotten an email back from them, but yeah.
Well, things work. I'm not part of that committee. Sorry.
Yeah. Dang.
I'm on a lot of them, just not that one.
Well, and I am no longer a messenger for the Missouri Baptist Convention, but I am a member of the Missouri Baptist Apologetics Network.
Yeah, but I mean, we will take you to. I mean, you know the way membership works at a church. I mean, you will be dead for 50 years and your name will still be on that roll.
Oh boy.
I guarantee you're somewhere on a Missouri roll.
Probably on 2 or 3.
Probably. That's the truth of it. But after Roe v. Wade happened, as pastors should have been celebrating, as pastors should have been saying this is a great day for the life of the unborn. You had prominent Southern Baptist pastors saying, well, what about, and the topics that always come out, incest and rape. What about those? Again, we can get into the history of Planned Parenthood. We can get into the racist background of it. We can get through all of that and even take you into inner cities and say, hey, where are the Planned Parenthoods at? And realize that the original founder of Planned Parenthood had a purpose. You know, that's why she had her meetings at KKK rallies. Let's just be honest. So when you have prominent pastors in the SBC saying, but what about these 2 cases? First, as a pastor, I'm going to take my gloves off, just like the Mormon missionaries. Show it to me in Scripture. Lay it out in Scripture. Yeah. Pastor to pastor. If you want to make this a public statement, show me in Scripture where the Bible says abortion is okay. Because this is all apologetic work, right? What does God say about it? Well, they throw out a scripture about if 2 men are fighting and they hurt a woman. Well, if the child is dead, then the guy should pay with his life. But if it's just not really harmed, just let the dad figure out a good amount. I forget what the scripture was at the time. Again, the guy blocked me, so I can't pull it up. But if you look up, just like if you Google abortion Bible verses, it's usually the first one that comes up, and it sounds like it's somewhere in Exodus. Yeah. So he uses that, and I said, well, that actually puts an actual like dollar amount, it seems like, on the life of the child. Not a okay for, the argument of, well, is the mother's life more important than the baby's life? Well, that scripture actually tells you that there's worth to both of those lives, and there's actually a harsher punishment.
And both of them, both of them get stripe for stripe, wound for wound. So it says about both of them, whatever the harm is done. And so if there is no harm done, but you're still the kid comes out prematurely, there is still a price because of what happened. The baby came out prematurely. That's not the way it's supposed to be, so but it's really interesting how they utilize that, but you got to twist it somehow to where, you get into Judaism didn't even believe that. So,
and when you have, when you have prominent Southern Baptist pastors using that Bible verse to justify abortion, first of all, I'm like, okay, just going to be honest, step down from your pulpit. Do not twist the scriptures in a way where you are making it say something that it's not saying, and you're trying to stick with your political party. Yeah. Let's understand what the scripture is. And for apologists, if we are going to sit here and listen to people twist the scriptures from the pulpit, and people that are on national platforms saying this, my direct response was, you want to use that argument for incest and rape. Both of these things are a sin. Incest and rape are a sin. But here's the question you have to answer. The child that was produced because of incest and rape, who is it the image bearer of?
Mm-hmm. And doesn't Jesus say, give unto Caesar what is Caesar's and give unto God what is God's? And if that's God's image,
exactly.
There you go. So, that's not, that's New Testament priority, but anyway,
so,
go for it.
Unfortunately, comes from our pulpits. Yep. And as apologists, we are the ones that are are trying to stop this, trying to teach our pastors and especially those who are jumping on Twitter and saying, well, I don't, I might not understand why, a group of people think this is okay, when forever abortion was always wrong. But let me look on Twitter, because where are most of our pastors spending their days? And I'll be honest with you, pastors, get off Twitter. I even said this on Saturday night. Like I've started making maybe like one tweet every 2 weeks or something like that. I said, if you have to put at least 2 or 3 of the trending topics that are on Twitter into your sermon, rip up your sermon and find somebody to fill your pulpit tomorrow. Stop it. Stop with this. I need to get more likes on my post, and I can't preach certain things because it might offend my followers. Your ministry, your churches are not about what is happening in the world. It should not be. One more thing, and I'll jump off my soapbox here. I'm sorry, guys.
All right.
You gave me a platform, and I'm going.
We haven't had you on in a while, Will.
Yeah,
so
no,
Yeah, I know.
there's a lot of ideas here.
to hear from you.
So back in 2021, one of the biggest hashtags that was being said on the morning of the election for the Southern Baptist Convention was, "The world is watching."
Yeah.
The world is watching. Okay, the world is watching. They should not agree with what happens at the end of the Southern Baptist Convention. When that gavel is hammered and saying, okay, we are done, the world should go, how dare you? How dare you say those things? They should not look at us and say, well, we love you guys. No, because what does the Bible say? The world is going to hate us. The world is going to hate us because it first hated God. The words that we say should be so against the world that CNN should not go, hey, well, we definitely need to talk to the new Southern Baptist president because, well, he is speaking our language.
Yeah. It says, beloved, do not be surprised at the fiery trial when it comes upon you to test you as though something strange were happening to you, but rejoice insofar as you share Christ's sufferings, that you may also rejoice and be glad when his glory is revealed. If you are insulted for the name of Christ, you are blessed, because the Spirit of glory and of God rest on you. But let none of you suffer as a murderer or a thief or an evildoer or as a meddler. Yet if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in that name. So that's the thing is, the world is watching, but they don't realize that, the world watches and they need to see us be Christians.
Yeah, they need.
And then we're going to suffer for us actually being consistent with Christianity. And that's why we need apologetics, especially if we're denominational, if we are, as something new, part of the MBAN anyway, Rob Phillips, if we are confessional or supposed to be confessional, thank you, Al Mohler and Anaheim, for bringing up that confessionalism up. But if we're going to do that, if we're going to suffer for that confession, we're going to suffer for that name. Even a post-mill guy can go, yes, we're going to suffer. So the suffering does not defeat optimism. Suffering produces optimism and hope. So we're going to suffer for that name. And so the world is watching, but we always go, the world's watching and we got to make them happy. Yeah. That's wrong. That's suffering as an evildoer, a meddler, a murderer. Because what do we say on abortion? Hey, they gave us an arbitrary line. We can murder the incest babies and the rape babies. So at least the Southern Baptists are lightening up a little bit. Do we want the world to say that about us, or do they want us? Shouldn't we be like, we don't care what you think. We want to see justice against murder, and even of babies in the womb. And we don't care what you think, but at least you're seeing us be consistent with our confession, because you're not consistent with your worldview, and we can show you. And then apologetics comes back in to then bring the gospel to bear.
There was a politician who, and I don't think she was in Missouri, but she was very, very pro-life. Completely get rid of abortion. We don't need it. And the argument from the world was, well, hey, you know her views on abortion. She wants it completely illegal. And I went, well, if I was in that state, that's the one thing I would go, well, I'm voting for her. Why? Because apparently the world doesn't want it.
Yeah.
And here's something I was telling my church the other night was that because we've been studying C.S. Lewis's The Great Divorce. That a great book that talks, a lot of people get confused by it because I think they have a misunderstanding of who C.S. Lewis actually was. As in, he was not a big theologian and not a pastor. He was just a layman in the church, just writing on subjects as he was learning about them. But one of my members asked me about, this whole idea about, because C.S. Lewis talks a lot about in that book, people, if you love the world, then you're going to want nothing to do with heaven, because heaven has nothing about the world. But you know what does? Hell really likes the world. They love the world and everything. If you desire the world, well, then you will desire the things of hell. That whole concept was completely in there. And I told my member, because she was like, man, that was kind of like harsh, don't you think? And I said, no. I said, because the world is so corrupt. Everything in the world is so corrupt that when God returns, he's got to make a new heaven and a new earth, because this one will not be sufficient for his glory. So it will fade away. The world and all of its lust and all of that will fade away, and God will make anew. So the world is not a place where we as pastors and we as theologians and apologists, and evangelists, we should go, hey, I really got to make sure that I don't get canceled on Twitter.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't care.
Yeah, Holiness of God's still a very number one seller from R.C. Sproul, so that's good. I guess if you're passed away, if you passed away before cancel culture, maybe they'll leave you alone, and that book still remains a good seller, where it says that Uzzah's hands were dirtier than the dirt that the Ark of the Covenant fell in. So the Ark of the Covenant would have fell on better grounds than been stabilized by a dirty man's hand. That's pretty darn harsh. So we got to be that way. But yeah, Dave, it looks like you've been chomping at the bit here.
Well, I wanted, Will, before I know we're kind of coming up on our time here, as you think a little bit about the network and the long-term goals for the network, I know that we have pastors that are Missouri Baptist who listen to the podcast. We even have network members that listen to the podcast. What are things that we can do objectively to make sure that Missouri Baptists have a good understanding of the network, and what can we do to further promote that, and what can be done in churches to further advance the network in the weeks ahead and the days ahead?
Well, I think the greatest thing that you can do is you can find one of our members wherever they're at in your area. As we continue to grow our network in members, we're hitting all the areas of Missouri. You can have a apologist come into your church, and they can share with your church whatever struggle you might be going through. Maybe you have a member whose kid, decided to become whatever, jump into Islam or something like that. We have members that can do that, and they're right around the corner. We have this stuff for the network members. First of all, I do need to apologize, because I felt like I have been kind of like not very active this past year, just because I've had so much, in my life going on, and in my church going on, stuff like that. And I'm sitting here saying I'm still here, I'm still working, I'm just not as vocal as I was.
Well, you produced a book, and you planted the seeds for a journal. I think that's quite a bit of work.
We are all members of the same body, dude, and God's given us different giftings, and he's putting us in different situations, and we might be in a situation for a season that we're not in other seasons. But dude, don't ever the fruit will show. and the fruit is here that you have been working. And so yeah, there is no way to like, and I get the same way, like I'm reeling after yesterday's kind of like, I went and had a talk, finally had a church contact me saying, hey, come up and talk about presuppositional apologetics, and I still feel insufficient teaching the thing, but there were good questions asked, and I hope that maybe that by that process they took in a lot of information and want to have me up again to maybe clarify some things, or but we're always going to feel that we're insufficient, and we are. We are creatures,
Yeah.
We're always going to feel that we're not doing enough because the flesh in us wants to work and wants to work out for, we want to work and then be like, see, God, look what I did. And we know that's like, no, but our flesh is still fighting, going like, so yeah, don't be ashamed of that. But Will's been doing a lot this past year, and the Missouri Baptist Apologetics Network is still fledgling. We've had booths, but still people don't know we have one. I'll be at the booth every year, and most of the people, I'm like, did you know you have an apologetics network that you can call and find an apologist to come talk about we got a bunch of them and different specializations that they like to talk about, and they're like, no. And then so we're still a pretty young fledgling industry, entity among our own that don't. I mean, we're in the pathway with Rob Phillips. He promotes the network and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's still, people aren't taking in the information, and we just still got to go work out there. It's okay,
Yeah,
we got time.
Yeah, and we, as we continue to make those steps to be more of that entity that I would love for us to be. The thing that here's the report. One of the things that I get the pleasure of doing is presenting at the executive board about ministry support, about MMO, about the CP, and also apologetics. And I get to give these reports, and I get to read the books that Rob Phillips is putting out, and knowing that we also have a printing press in the Missouri Baptist that we can actually produce books and we can get this stuff done. We have great technicians there at the MBC doing videos, and we had an apologetics video made for us, and it was beautifully done. And when I sit there and I watch it, and I watch the things that we can produce in house, I'm saying, look at this. This is actual Hollywood quality stuff that is coming out of the NBC, and we have full advantage of that. Having our articles put up, making sure that they are looking nice and looking professional, making sure that the podcast, if you're on a podcast about whatever topic, you can have that link put up and be showcased onto your page. You can have those resources, and then also saying to pastors and to other people, hey, we need to talk about these subjects. We need to talk about these cults that are coming in to our areas. Or, hey, what about this group? Do we know anything about them? Well, who can talk to somebody about a group who uses the original names of Jesus, and but they don't believe in the Trinity? Well, aren't they just like us? Those are questions that need to be asked of the members to their pastors. Sometimes the pastors just need to stop by and say, hey, I noticed that you're like a house of worship. What do you teach? So that you can better equip your community where your church is at. Again, your audience is not online. It is in the community of your church. Yeah. And there is a lot of falsehood going around. I got a cult not too far from my church, and I'm in a rural area. So think about St. Louis, think about Kansas City, think about Springfield, Branson, all these other places that are bigger than my area. And think about how much falsehood is going on around there. So as pastors, if you're listening to this, ask those questions. Who are around? We do those demographic surveys all the time. What false religions are around my church, and what do my people need to know? Jeff City has a big population. Me and the other president of the NBC, John Nelson, talked about the Hebrew Israelite movement that goes on there. Why? Because his church is at Lincoln University. He deals a lot with them that come on the campus, or that come literally, they are teaching on the street corner right down the road from the NBC building. Well, I'm not big on that subject, but I know John has dealt with them a lot. So I'm going to talk to John. Now, maybe when he gets done being NBC president, he can jump into the network and work with us. I would love that.
Yeah.
But, pastors, ask those questions. Who's around us? Members, say, Pastor, I heard about this group. What do you know about them? And then say, well, hey, I heard about this Apologetics network group. They got a bunch of people that are really smart, that know what to do. We have members that used to be parts of these cults that can actually give you a better understanding than just what you can read in a book. So the word is out, and it's going to continue to get out. When we present this journal, people are going to be carrying it around, and it's a good size. It's a nice big size, so people are going to have.
Show us the other side of it. Yeah, give us a look at that little sneak peek, because that reminds me of what I've seen the past couple of years. The few pages with just our pictures or whatever. Now turn it to its side. Let's look at those pages. Let's see how thick that is. That's much better. That has got a lot more substance, probably to it, materially and immaterially, as far as words and what words mean. That's awesome.
Yeah, we have, this was edited professionally. I mean, we got nice family photos, and when you get this in your hand, when you're walking around, when you're talking about things, if we're doing it right, the world is going to be upset.
That's right.
And you can say, well, hey, there's a bunch of guys in here that can actually tell you about God. St. Charles is I used to live in St. Charles. It was the first place I lived on my own. Turned 18 years old and moved to St. Charles. Actually not too far from where the annual meeting is going to be at. And it is a very different area than when I was living there. Lot more built up, and there's a lot of things that happen around there. And there's a lot of churches that just are not equipped to, we always like to talk about doing missions and doing evangelism, and we'll have the evangelism courses. But then when it comes down to, breaking down those barriers and saying, well, I don't think what you're saying is right about the scriptures. But I know a guy, or I know a group of guys and gals that can come and that can talk about this. And yeah, we need to get in those churches.
Or how about this one? You want to talk about the nature of the flood, right?
Oh, there we go.
And then what do you say? I know a guy.
I know a guy, yeah.
Oh, yes, I had to get the dad joke in there.
Excellent work there, Adam. Well, Will, I just want to thank you so much for being on the program with us. I am grateful. We didn't just get MBAN Journal. We got really broad spectrum, Missouri Baptist Convention, apologetics in general. This was a great show, a great way to catch up with you. You need to come on sooner again. Don't spend a year and a half away from us next time.
And anytime you want me on, I will come on. I will take some time and hopefully I'll put the soapbox away for a while.
No, everything is good.
It's all right.
Great. We don't get to have the president of the Missouri Baptist Apologetics Network on very often. So
we're happy to see it. And since we have both you guys on the screen with me, and we just talked about St. Charles, Missouri, I want to throw this up here because we didn't hit it at the very beginning of the program. But again, guys, you can come and hang out with El Presidente Wil Hoffmann here of the Apologetics Network, him and Dave moderating a debate that includes me, Gabriel Zelaya, Colton Wright, and Dennis Jackson, all MBAN apologists. What does the Bible say about end times is the resolve, and it's an evening of debate between four eschatological, oh, that's a good big word, eschatological positions, and it'll be October 23rd, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the St. Charles Convention Center in the Junior Ballroom on the lower level in St. Charles, Missouri. So, and basically it's the Missouri Baptist annual meeting or bust coming up. So yeah, thank you guys for getting this together. Thanks for moderating it and just making it happen. And I will get that off the screen and let you guys have any sort of other comments before we close out the show.
Thank you, Will, so much, brother, for the work that you do. Don't undersell it at all. It's an incredibly important thing. I appreciate the way you not only serve your church, but the way you serve Missouri Baptist, and I'm grateful for your leadership on the network, and look forward to seeing you in October. It'll be a blessing. It'll be a year since I've seen you face to face. So
it's been some time. Yeah, you've had a lot of changes in your life, and I don't want to say traitor, but
he's a traitor.
Yeah. But no, I'm going to be glad to see you guys. I always have a fun time doing the show and getting together to wherever we're at, usually Branson, St. Charles, but to hang out, to talk shop, to just make sure that not only do we get to talk about apologetics, but we have just what we're supposed to do and have fellowship. And that is the most important thing about even the whole of the NBC annual meeting. It is a big time for us to worship together and praise God for creating us and giving us salvation through Jesus.
Amen.
Amen, brother.
Well, with that said, we've had a lot of time. Thank you guys for getting on here, downloading the episode, or watching the episode on YouTube. If you could, please just give us a subscribe on YouTube if this is your first time listening. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. And then also, if you're listening to it on the podcast, whatever platform it is, if you have not rated us and write a little something nice, or hey, if this is annoying, let us know. Like we want to hear from you. We don't care what you have to say. We want to hear it, and we'll take it in stride and interpret it with a scripture on how we are supposed to respond to it. And but then again, if you definitely like it, help us get those bumps up and get let us be related when it comes to other podcasts. If you like this podcast, you might like this podcast, and it helps us get our message and our work out to more people. And so that's just something simple that you can do. So if you can do that. Other than that, all I have to say is this has been the Tag You It podcast. I'm Ray,
and I'm David Van Bever,
and we had
Wil Hoffmann
and Soli
Deo
Gloria.